So for session 2, I want to welcome someone I just got connected to a week ago. So a week ago, this contact comes on my table, and so I reach out to him. He finds out about the college and the summit, and I'm already planned out. I've already planned out the whole events and everything, and I've incorporated Aaron Michelle into our songwriter round, and I've wanted to bring Hope on board, and so I'm implementing people. And then this guy, David Willis, lands on my plate, and I'm like, hey man, tell me about yourself. And I just have to tell you guys, I connected with him. I talked to him for 30 minutes or an hour on the phone, and just our hearts burned together. And I was like, this guy is speaking my language. This guy gets the vision. It's like we've been running together all these years with the same heart. And so I wanted to bring him in. I was like, man, I don't know what I can do to bring you in. I'm over budget. He said, no, I'm coming on my own dime. I'm bringing my family. And so David Willis is here with his family. You'll see his wife and his kids around. But he's come here to be with you guys because he believes in the next generation and because he burns for the heart of God in worship and in songwriting. He has been a songwriter and worship leader with Watershed Music Group and a coach and trainer for Rick Pino's worship coach. You guys have probably seen some of that on some of the advertisement on social media about David Willis. But we had a time last night at the house. He brought his family and his wife and kids over to my house, so we were completely outnumbered, adults to children. It was a wild, loud time, but we just had a good time just connecting with our families and getting to know each other. And David is really instrumental in the songwriting world and training songwriters. He's on a call every single week with 100, 200 songwriters that are artists and songwriters in training and worship leaders. And so he's going to bring a real unique perspective. And so would you, for our second session, give a warm, visible, and Memphis welcome to David Willis.
Man. Whoa. Thank you for that. Man, give it up for Matt and the visible staff. The guys in the back, man, we honor you guys. I've been a guy in the back for a lot of years. I've served as the creative pastor, TV director, all the things in the back. So I love you guys back there. I appreciate everything you do. And you guys are so awesome. And so appreciate Matt, appreciate the Visible College, man. And I got to say this real quick before I forget. Dude, my heart is burning with what you shared earlier today. And I said it to you, but I'll say it to you guys too as well. Guys like me, Matt, and Zach and his wife and people of our generation, maybe we had to learn some of this stuff the hard way. And I'm so excited that you guys get to be taught this at your age. I say your age. I'm older than I look, but I don't know how old you think I am. But, at your age, I would have really enjoyed to get this revelation. But I had to learn and fail and learn and fail and realize that what I was looking for out on the road or at other places or down the street or across the world was actually in my backyard. Like, I don't think you know fully yet, but hopefully by the time today is over, you'll see the thread that God is weaving through this whole summit and through this conference and through what's spoken and what's taught and really what's imparted, because I can teach you certain things, but really I want you to catch certain things, and I want you to feed off of certain things that has produced fruit in my own life. I was talking with Matt too as well. Like, I'm kind of picky even about songs that I release because it has to do the work in me before I release it to do work in other people. I write exclusively for like worship music and congregations, and there are times when I go into the secret place and I just hear songs and I hear melodies and I pour them out to the Lord. As He's singing over me, I'm singing it back over Him. And there are times when I go, that's a really good melody. That's a really good song. And then I hear the gentle whisper of my Father go, yeah, how much are you going to sell me for? And I go, let me get down here. And then there are other times where He whispers a melody and a note, and I'm like, oh, Lord, that's just for you and me. And He goes, no. What I whisper in your ear in secret go proclaim on the mountaintops and the rooftops. So you have to learn the discernment. Has the song, has the word done a work in you, or is it still a seed? And that's not what I'm going to talk about really at all today, but it's just what came to mind and what came and leaped to my spirit as I was hearing from Zach. Like what he gave you guys was not a seed. It was mature fruit. Now, in every mature fruit, there's what? There's seed. There's also substance. There's substance in that fruit. There's substance to satisfy the hunger now, but then seed to go plant and satisfy hunger in the future. You have to know that about fruit. Fruit's not just for the moment. Fruit is not just for consuming right now. Fruit is for the generations to come. If we take the fruit that we're given and we consume every part of it for ourselves, we may have a full belly now, but we will forgo a harvest in the future if we haven't sown that seed in the fruit for someone else. What I love what I'm hearing here is that there are generations on the line. And I love reading the Old Testament and hearing that God identifies himself as a God who works through multiple generations of a single family. He is the God of Abraham, he is the God of Isaac, and he is the God of Jacob. And the story that God is telling in your life and the story that he told in their life was not fully realized until generations had passed on what they learned to the next generation. So much so that if you fail to do that, the Bible gives us a warning. It says in Judges that there was a generation who knew not the things of God. They had not been taught. They had not been passed on. They had not been imparted into. And they became under judgment. Like he was saying, like if you do things on your own, if you go out, you're living under a curse. But if you stay and you get taught and led and submitted to a father, then there's a blessing. And I was listening to friends of mine, Matt Lockett and Will Ford. You may have heard of them, but they kind of give this story of what they've been given in their life. It's this incredible story. I won't spoil the ending because you got to go research them. But they say, generational curses go from the second, third, and fourth generation, right? We understand that. Generational blessings go to thousands of generations. How much stronger are generational blessings than generational curses? So if you live under blessing generations and you serve under a father and a mother who bless the next generation, that is perpetual for not just 1, 2, and 3, 4 generations, where we can maybe trace our ancestry back 3 generations, 4 generations, but thousands and thousands of generations will be blessed because you position yourself in the storyline of heaven. God found a man, that man had a son, that man had a son or daughter, and then through generations, God's story was told. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. God's story was not fully realized until generations had passed that on from one to another. Who here knows what I'm talking about? You get that? Hey, I'm going to introduce myself in a minute, but let me just hear from you guys. Like, who's bold enough and brave enough to tell me, like, who they are, maybe what their degree plan is, and, like, what's going on? You raise your hand? No? You raised your hand, right? What's your name? Derica. Nice to meet you. You go to school here? Okay. Vocal major. Awesome. Hey, just give me like 30 seconds of like what your calling is, like what's your dream, like your big dream, your big goal in life. Yeah. Come on.
Talk to like teenage girls and
Yes.
women about like healing and protection and things like that. Learning how to become a woman. Some women don't have those mother figures.
Come on. Derica, right? Derica, leader of women. And I love this. You're a leader of women. You're a counselor of women. And here's what I love. When God comes to Abraham, he doesn't say Abraham, the one without a son. Right? He says, Abraham, the father of many nations. God sees Abraham as what he's called him to do, not just who he is now. So Derica, leader of women, counselor of women, healer of women. Come on, you guys clap her up. Come on. When you look at her, you need to see that about her. Come on, somebody else. Now that you kind of know what I'm doing, somebody else. Give me who they are, what your degree is, and what your big goal is. Come on, somebody else. Come on, yeah. Okay. Yes.
And I just realized that I think it's more centralized towards something more specific, but kind of a general idea of it. I want to create a place that I can recreate kind of like the same environment that I had when I was a kid
Yes.
growing up. I feel a little privileged in some areas because
Sure.
I had like I was, ignorance is bliss.
Yeah.
And I didn't really have to deal with a whole lot of stuff, at least up front. It's only until like later on in my life where I had to start dealing with it. But I want to create a safer space for people to just, come to one
Yeah.
central area and just call it home.
Come
And
on.
be able to just have a family, no matter whether or not it's your blood relatives or just their friends.
Yeah.
I want a place where people can just call home.
That's good. What's your name again?
Mike.
Michael, father of people, father of sons and daughters, that you can create shelter for them, a tabernacle. Come on, why don't you just give Mike a hand? Hey, every time you see him on campus, he's Father Mike. Father Mike, he's wanting to create a shelter for people. Listen, you know what's cool about that? And I'll kind of get to what I'm like, why I do that. Just to springboard off of what Zach said, being in relationship and family with one another, we see a lot, right? I mean, who has siblings? Who has siblings? Right? Like the majority of everybody in this room, right? You see a lot with siblings, right? Like the good, the bad, the ugly, mostly the bad and the ugly, right? Like, you fight. I don't know if you were close with your siblings in age. I was 6 years apart from my brother, who was the closest to me, and then 12 years apart from my sister, who were closest, actually, relationally. But we fought all the time, and we saw the good and the bad, and it was really hard for me to look at them and go, man, I see God's hand on your life doing X, Y, and Z. It was hard because we were in such close proximity with one another. You see that in the story of Joseph sometimes, right? Like Joseph has this big dream, but in his family context, it's not being honored and recognized, and in fact, it's being despised. So I want you to be real intentional in this family environment when you're around Father Mike and Derica too as well. Like you guys are seeing them day in and day out, and sometimes you're going to see them on mountaintops, and sometimes you're going to see them in valleys, but in family, it's saying, I know who you are. I know who God's called you to be. You're the father of many nations, like Abraham. Even though you might not have a son yet, you're a father of many nations. And so family allows us this opportunity to see people in the highs and the lows, but it also gives us a safe place, like even what you were saying, that shelter place that people can really be their authentic selves. So I'm David Willis. I don't know what I am, actually. I've been on staff at a church for about 17 years, different churches, not just one church, but for the past 8 years, I've been on staff at my home church, at One City Church in Beaumont, Texas. We help lead worship there. We co-lead there. We write songs and release songs. I've done every single position at the church except for like senior pastoring. I've been a kids pastor for a minute. Lord help me. I've been a youth pastor. I've been a media pastor. I ran a TV show at our church and did the whole live stream deal and did all the things, and been worship pastor for sure, small group pastor, connections pastor, all the things, all right? So I've kind of had a unique perspective, in the same church. I've been all those things in the same church. That's what's been wild. It's I've seen all the different aspects, not all, right, but a lot, right? So I've seen a lot of different aspects, and I've come to know that being in a family is the most important thing that you can do. Like what Zach was saying, so cool. You've seen a guy who's been in the church for 30 years, and you're like, man, he missed it, right? How boring that is. And now I'm like, man, that sounds pretty good. That sounds pretty awesome. Being around people that you can actually share generations with, because God is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and his story and his timeline and his goodness isn't truly revealed in one generation. If his calling for you is so small that you can accomplish it in your lifetime, it's probably not his true calling for your life. Because the callings and the gifts and the things that he's called you into should take generations to accomplish. So think of it from that perspective of healer of women, creator of this shelter. You are building for generations. You're standing on the shoulders of the previous, and you're moving forward so that someone else can stand on your shoulders. I do have a family. If you want to pull up that pic of my family, these are my kids. Look at these guys. Starting from the left, that is baby Arlie, and then Ella, Ezra, and Raquel. And we love our time together. As you can tell, we are just kind of in this stage of life. We've been changing diapers for about 10 years, so that's been really fun. And so you can pull it. I love my family. I have the privilege of traveling with them today, and so you might see them run in and out. We have everyone but Raquel with us. We actually co-raised Raquel with her aunt, and so we have her sometimes, and then sometimes we don't. And so it's a privilege to do life with her and her family. And so she's not with us, but the rest of our kids are, and my wife is here. She'll be around here somewhere. Like I said, I serve and I lead at One City Church. If you want to throw on the sanctuary picture, the one with the lights. This is my home church. And I took this photo, and I just want to just tell you this as to why. I'll kind of launch into my message here in a minute. But I took this photo one night. I was the only one there. I was the media pastor at the time. I think I was the only one there. And I was praying in the sanctuary. I just turned everything on. It was about 9 o'clock at night. The alarm was going to kick on in about an hour or so. I had a few minutes left to shut everything off. And I was sitting there praying. And I began to thank the Lord that I was planted in a house. And this was, let me give you context. This was 2020. And I was a media pastor in 2020. I don't know if you got the context, but that was a pretty rough year for a lot of people. And it was a rough year for media pastors who suddenly a lot of your ministry on campus became ministry online, right? And suddenly everyone was shifting to move all of their ministries online. And guess who was the only person who had online knowledge and experience? This guy, one guy, right? In the church full of like 600 people, like one guy knew how to get you online. And so it was a busy year. It was a hard year. But one thing I realized as I was sitting in the sanctuary praying and just sitting there, I began to thank the Lord that I was planted somewhere. I began to thank the Lord that I had a home. Show me the next slide, the chapel. That looks like a piece of carpet in a chapel with a pew. But this is the same church, and that's the spot where I first encountered the Lord when I was in second grade. And I knelt down, and they were singing the song, crucified, laid behind a stone. He lived to die, rejected and alone like a rose, trampled on the ground. You took the fall. You thought of me above all, right? Second grade, had no clue what a lot of that meant. Had no clue. I just remember feeling the hand of God on my back, and it felt like fire. And I just began to kneel in that place. And I probably laid prostrate on the ground for like 30 minutes in this chapel worship service for the school that we have at the church. And I went to school K through 12 there and had the privilege of being on staff there for about 8 years. And I got to steward the very place where I first got to encounter the Lord. And I say that to say this. When you step into a place of taking care of what belongs to someone else, like Zach was saying, you understand that God's goodness is being displayed through your ability to stay rooted and stay planted. And the fruit that comes out of your life is a deep and mature fruit that can satisfy the hunger of the wanderer and the traveler and the vagabond. Those who are going from one place to another place, and they're never quite planted, they're never quite rooted, and they always seem to be out there. And they're never in here, right? But when you plant yourself, you can bear fruit that will satisfy the longing heart of those wanderers. Let me talk to you just for a minute about bearing fruit. This is kind of what I really wanted to talk about. Psalm 1 has been on my heart for the past several weeks. And earlier last week, whenever I was talking with Matt, the Lord began to stir this in me. He was like, hey, if he asks you to speak, this is what I want you to speak on. I was like, cool. I have no expectation of anything. Like, I'm just going to say yes to anything the Lord puts in front of us and just say, we're on it. We're on what the Lord wants us to do. So he asked me to speak, and he says, what's on your heart? What's burning on your heart to speak? I was like, well, Psalm 1, being planted by the river and bearing fruit in every season. He's like, cool, let's do that. So let me read for you Psalm 1, and then I'm going to jump over to Jeremiah's adaptation in Jeremiah 17. But Psalm 1, he says this, blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor stands in the path of sinners, nor sits in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord. And in his law he meditates day and night. He shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water that brings forth its fruit in its season. And some of your translations say in each season. Whose leaf also shall not wither, and whatever he does shall prosper. Now, Jeremiah has an adaptation of this. I didn't really actually realize this, even though I had journaled in this passage before. I had never really quite put this together, that it was the same passage, but a little bit different. Jeremiah 17 and verse 7, it says, blessed is the man who trusts in the Lord and whose hope is in the Lord, for he shall be like a tree planted by the waters, which spreads out its roots by the river. Or some of your translations say towards the river. And will not fear when the heat comes or in the season of drought, depending on your translation. But its leaf will be green and will not be anxious in the year of drought, nor will cease from yielding fruit. Will not cease from yielding fruit. So I want to talk to you about bearing fruit in every season. I've been in ministry for 17 years in some sort of leadership capacity. I've been youth pastor. I've been a kids pastor for a minute. I've been a young adults pastor. I've been a worship pastor, creative pastor, all this kind of stuff. And I don't say that for any other reason, just to say, like, I've done a lot. And I've said yes to a lot. And I've been in the house for years. I've been in the house for decades. Again, you might not think I'm that old, but I am. And I've been in a place where I have seen staff come and go. I've seen parishioners come and go. I've seen movements come and go. I've seen trends come and go in my short time in ministry. And I've understood this. I don't have the luxury of being seasonal. And neither do you. So remove the word seasons from your vocabulary. Friend of mine, an acquaintance of mine, Damon Thompson, and then his spiritual son, Bren, they say it like this: seasons have become justifications for not bearing fruit, right? Like, we are in a season of drought. So we can withdraw and we can just go into our shell and we can punch the clock and we can just not be super effective because we're in a season of drought. We're in a season of being in the wilderness. And so we're not going to be as fruitful as if we were in the season of bearing fruit, guys. Come on. I'll get to that in a second. But we're not called to be seasonal people. I was sitting, and I really didn't get this revelation too much until I was sitting across from a guy in Charlotte about a week ago. And I was talking with this guy, and he was telling me about his business, and I did some consulting for him, and I was just kind of talking with him, and he's like, yeah, this is my business, and da-da-da-da. And he goes, man, and I'm just coming out of this seasonal depression. He's like, every single year, my business, we do this. We shut down a little bit in October until January when the winter comes. And he goes, this man wasn't saved, but I could tell in his heart that he knew that wasn't correct. He knew that wasn't good. And I thought to myself after I was sitting there, I was like, how many times do we do that as Christians, as staff members? We go through seasons, a season of fruitfulness and a season of energy and a season of excitement. That will be our spring. In a season of summer where we can just, enjoy the harvest work and we can prep the fields. And then when the harvest does come, that fall moment where we get to reap all the things that we've sown, and then we step into winter. And a lot of us step into seasonal depression in ministry. I used to dread the big two events every year, Christmas and Easter. Oh, Lord, if I had a seasonal depression, it was from November all the way past April, because you got a cantata, you got some kind of Christmas Eve service, you got some sort of play where even though no one dedicated a lot of time, it really has to be Perfect, right? You know? And then you got Easter when a lot of people are coming to church and you got to get them saved, right? In this short window of time, and you got to rent all the equipment, you got to set it up and make sure it works, like, you know, all this kind of stuff. And we go through seasons of not a lot of excitement, not a lot of energy, not a lot of, I'm enjoying this, and we fall into a little bit of depression, right? Just real talk. I've been on staff for 17 years. Like, I get it. Like, if you're on staff at a church, or you've been on staff at a church, or you're heading to be on staff at a church, just know this is common. We're not called to be common, though. So I'm going to say it like this. Like, you don't have the luxury of being seasonal, because in that moment, I was sitting across the table from a guy, and this was about his business. And I was like, man, you know how much money you could have made in October to January if you would have just done things a little bit different and had the energy? I was like, man. I was thinking to myself, I was like, you know how much impact we could have made in the kingdom if all those times when we were just over and over and over getting beat up by the condition and beat up by the environment and beat up by, you know, the circumstances, if we would have just pressed through and done what we were supposed to do, we could have made so much more impact. And I'm like, got convicted, and I was like, wow, you know, this is what it's about. It's about bearing fruit in every single season. And God brought me to Psalm 1, and he said, blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the ungodly, but who meditates day and night on the law of the Lord. He shall be like a tree planted by rivers of water. And I was listening to same friend, Damon Thompson and Brent Waddell, and they were saying, a tree planted by rivers of water has no need to go chase the rain. That's right. When you're planted by that source, when you're in proximity to that source, you have no reason to go chase the rain. And the cool thing about what God was teaching me out of Psalm 1 and then Jeremiah 17, I'd never really fully captured that adaptation of, man, the roots are drawn toward the river. The roots are drawn toward the river. The Lord began to share with me about that John 15 prayer that Jesus has over the disciples. And he says, abide in me, and that you will bear fruit. But apart from me, you're not going to bear fruit. And I thought about this, that Jesus equates bearing fruit not to activity, but proximity. And in Psalm 1, we see the same thing. It's that proximity to the river. It's the proximity to the nearness. And what's that river? You know, you can read about it in Ezekiel 37 and Revelation 22. Ezekiel 37, did I say that right? Ezekiel 47, Ezekiel 47 and then Revelation 22, that river that comes out of the throne of God. That river that just, and the trees planted alongside the river have this fruit that is for the healing of the nations in Revelation 22. That river in proximity to that place, his presence, those trees bear that fruit year after year, month after month, season after season. And I love the way Jeremiah says it. He says, they will not be anxious in the year of drought. You know, a lot of us, we approach seasons in ministry and we go, this is going to be tough, and this is going to be dry, and I have to plow through it, right? Maybe you're not there yet because you haven't had this, 10, 20 years of experience, but I've met so many people who are like, man, we're just going into this dry season. I'm going into this wilderness place. I'm going into this, maybe a town that hasn't really gotten on fire for the Lord. Maybe I'm going to a church that really is set in an old way and they can't seem to break out of it. And so, man, it's just so dry and it's just so barren. And the tree planted by rivers of water doesn't fear the seasons of drought, doesn't fear that moment because it's always bearing fruit. But here's the secret, guys. It bears fruit in every single season because its root systems go deep and they're drawn towards the water. And your roots are grown in secret. Your roots are grown in secret. Listen, like I said, I've been on stage. I've done the things. I've been in the back. I've been on stage. I've been everywhere in between. And we oftentimes like to be on the stage because we can hide behind these lights, behind our instruments, behind our microphones. When we get off the stage, who are we in secret? Means a lot more than what we did on stage. My dad says it like this: integrity is who you are when no one's watching. And that secret life with God is where those roots run deep. I'm a little far off my notes, so I'm going to try to come back real quick because I do want to wrap this up and give you some good kind of direction moving forward. So I want to talk to you about in the year of drought. in the year of drought. Won't have anxiety or fear in the year of drought. We've all been in the seasons, quote unquote, seasons, moments of life that beat us up, right? You know, illness strikes your family, maybe like an every death is untimely, it seems like, but it's like just a shocking situation. Tragedy strikes. I remember when we were going through infertility, and I remember like losing a child like in the womb, and just thinking like, Lord, you've called me to be a father, like what's happening? And then the next Sunday, getting up and singing Away in the Manger because it was Christmas time, and like losing it, you know, like right after, like we've been through moments, right? Like you've been through moments, like getting a call from the doctor that didn't go the right way. Like I remember leaving church and then finding out my mom had stage 5 kidney failure. Like the same, like just like, man, we left this awesome service. Mom has stage 5 kidney failure. Like crazy, right? Fast forward, she got healed of that. But anyways, I won't go there. But like, yeah, praise God on that. She actually did really well. It was awesome. But we've been through seasons of brokenness and moments where things just kind of beat us up. But you can still bear fruit in those seasons, in those moments. And I keep saying seasons, but what I'm getting at is these moments that beat us up, you can still bear fruit. All right. Get here real quick. Jesus says in John 15:5, I am the vine and you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. And apart from me, you can do nothing. I said this earlier, but Jesus ascribes fruitfulness not to activity, but proximity. And I want to just share this thought with you. Fruitfulness is important because, like I said earlier, like the fruit has substance that will satisfy hunger. Then it also has seed that you can plant for generations to come. I'm reminded of this story. The Lord brought me to Mark, I believe it's Mark 9, Mark 11, and then Matthew 21. I won't turn there right now, but the story of the fig tree, right? Where Jesus walks up to this fig tree covered in leaves, and he reaches in to grab a fig, and there's no fruit on that tree. And he curses the fig tree, it withers up, and it dies, right? And then Mark makes this profound statement. He goes, it wasn't the season for figs, right? It wasn't the season for figs. And we understand, like in context, what that's talking about is just the visibility of the religious system of that day and how there wasn't substance underneath the leafy green trees. But it wasn't the season that they understood that was their visitation. It wasn't the season that they should expect the Christ to come. And so they were taken off guard. They missed their moment. But one thing that I thought about when I was looking at this particular passage is that Jesus reaches in to this leafy tree. This tree, figs grow like this, fruit, then leaves, fruit, then leaves. A lot of the trees where I'm from goes leaves, then fruit, right? So we kind of think, we're like, okay, it's got leaves but no fruit. That doesn't shock me. But figs grow the opposite. Fruit, then leaves. So if you see a leafy fig tree, usually means you're going to find fruit. It has the appearance of health, but not the substance of health, okay? So it was an identifier of the religious system of the day. The appearance of health, but not the substance of health. The appearance of fruit, but not the substance of fruit. So Jesus reaches in expecting to find fruit and doesn't. Now Mark says it wasn't the season of figs, but why was it leafy? And it was an identifier that you can have this leafy exterior. You can have this visible health about you, but lack the actual substance. You can lack the actual fruit. Because, and then on the top of that, you can say, well, Jesus, it wasn't the season of fruit. It's not the right season. Why would I have fruit? It's not the right season. Well, why are you looking like you do, right? You know, and so it's this whole concept of when the master approaches and he reaches into your life, no matter the season, is he going to find substance? Or is he just going to find leaves? So I was thinking about this and praying into this and just asking the Lord, like, what do you want me to share? Stay connected, stay rooted, stay prosperous is the lesson of Psalm 1. Planted, rooted, prosperous. You're planted, you're connected, you're rooted, you're prosperous, right? And the master is walking through the garden even now. Like I'm thinking about the seasons and the times and the moments that we find ourselves in, the era that we live in. And I'm seeing the master come, and he's reaching into different people's lives. Will he find fruit? Will he find substance? And we can say that it's not the right season. It's not the right time. Like, I'm going through this or I'm going through that. Jesus, what are you hoping to find? And he's hoping to find trees that are planted by rivers. And I'm thinking about this as it relates to your generation. And I'm thinking about, and I'm praying about this. And I asked the Lord, like, show me kind of where you want me to take this. Show me where you want me to take this message. And he said, Job 14. Because I was sitting in a service a couple weeks ago and I was listening to Matt Lockett, and he was saying Job 14, and it just kind of popped in my head. Job 14 says this. Let me find it real quick and then share it with you. Some of us have been through moments where our hopes and our dreams and our aspirations have been cut down. And we feel like that tree, right, planted, but then at times we feel like we are cut down, cut off from the religious system. But Job, in Job 14, he says this. For there is hope for a tree, if it is cut down, that it will sprout again, and that its tender shoots will not cease. Though its root may grow old in the earth, and its stump may die in the ground, yet at the scent of water it will bud and bring forth branches like a plant. No matter what you go through in life, you may feel like you're cut off. You may feel like you're cast out. You may feel like, you've been abused, or you've been in certain situations that have been rough. You've been through these circumstances. You can bear fruit in every single season, because at the scent of water, even a cut down tree will begin to bud. At the scent of water, even the branches that have been shriveled up and died, and the roots that have shriveled up and died, can bear fruit again. Trees are very resilient. You are very resilient. All you need to do is find a source of water. All you need to do is find that river, find that place, and let your roots grow deep again in the secret. And I love what Zach was saying earlier about being in the place of being planted and being rooted at your home church, underneath the covering of a father, the covering of a mother. That's where your roots can really go deep, in secret. So I do want to do this. I want to pray with you guys. I'm a little kind of off my notes, but I do want to just share one last thought with you guys and then pray for you. So no matter what's happened to you in life, at the scent of water, there's hope for a tree. So I pray that whatever you're going through, whatever you have been through, that you'll find that source of water and bud again. You'll really bear fruit again. So I'm going to pray for you. Father, I thank you so much for this group. I thank you so much for this next generation. I thank you so much for what you're doing in this hour. Lord, and as you're walking around the earth and you're looking into our lives and you're peering into our lives, I pray that you would find substance. I pray that you would find fruit. God, as we're planted in secret with you, our secret life with you, worshiping in secret, praying in secret, our roots going deep in you, I pray that we'll find that source of water in your presence. We'll find that river of water in your presence. And that even in the moments of life where we are cut down or feel cut off or we feel abused or abandoned or alone, I pray that and finding you, and finding your river, and finding your presence, that the scent of water will begin to bud new life again. And I just pray right now, I sense in the room that there have been many people who have been misunderstood. You've been misunderstood by pastors, you've been misunderstood by leaders, you've been misunderstood by friends and colleagues and even family members. And there have been moments where you felt cut off from the religious system. You felt cut off from family. You felt cut off. You've given your life to certain things and you feel cut off. And you've given your life and you've gone deep in different relationships and deep in different places and families and churches, and you feel cut off, you feel shriveled up. But I pray right now that you would be drawn to the source of water in the secret place. You would be drawn to that river of water in the secret place. And at the scent of water, at the just mere presence of water, you would begin to bud new life again, because you're not called to live seasonally. You're not called to live circumstantially. You're not called to live and feel anxious in the seasons of drought and in the moments of heat, but you're called to bear fruit in every single season, in every single moment, year after year, month after month, never ceasing to bear fruit, because in your secret place with God, your roots are being drawn toward the river. So I just release that over each and every one of you, that even though you might have found yourself cut off from religious systems, cut off from leaders, cut off from families, cut off from moments, I pray that you would find a secret life with God. You would find this place of his river, and you would find this place of his presence in the most secret places, so that you would bear fruit once again. And I bless you with that in Jesus' name. Amen.